Hey everybody, Mr. Kemple here. We're going to do another little video here for all you guys. This time we're going to be talking about perspective, linear perspective, and specifically the difference between 1, 2, and 3-point perspective. In class I've already kind of gone over the differences and shown you some examples. But it really doesn't start to make sense until you start to draw it for yourself. So I think the easiest way to start off with perspective, because it can get a little tricky, is to start out by drawing just simple boxes. Just like we started out with boxes when we did isometric drawing and structure drawing, we're going to do something similar. And honestly, doing the structure and crating and doing perspective are similar in certain ways. But the main difference is that instead of making diagonals parallel along an axis, now diagonals are going to recede to a vanishing point. All right. Talked about in class how I'm sure you've all seen an example like this where you have like a road or a pathway or railroad tracks kind of receding in the distance, kind of like this, right? So what it looks like whenever you see something like this is that you have these two diagonal lines that seem to meet at a point, right? The point at which they meet is called the vanishing point, or just a VP. And the vanishing point is always on the horizon line. Okay? The horizon line is where basically the sky meets the ground. It's the furthest away in the distance from what you can see. All right, we kind of went over that in class. But you know, the thing to keep in mind is that these two edges don't really ever meet. It's an optical illusion. So we can draw some other diagonals here, like so. And you could have, you know, I don't know, anything along these diagonal lines. These could be, you know, telephone poles, telephone wires. They could be trees. And they all eventually get, you know, smaller as they recede in the distance. Okay? But these lines don't really ever touch, okay? They just look like they do. If railroad tracks, for example, ever touched like that for real, then, you know, the train would derail, which would be a bad thing. So perspective is just kind of an optical illusion based on where your point of view is. And where your point of view is going to dictate how many vanishing points you might be seeing in a scene. So this right here is called 1-point perspective because there's one vanishing point. And you have 3 sets of lines in any given drawing. You have, in this case, in a 1-point drawing, you have straight vertical lines, you have straight horizontal lines, and then you have diagonal lines. And the diagonal lines in a 1-point drawing are all going to recede to that one vanishing point, right? Kind of like radiating hands of a clock or something like that. It's all going to go to the center. And you can have that one vanishing point anywhere on that horizon line, right? We could have moved it over here and then had, you know, all the vanishing points coming from there. Either way, okay? So that's 1-point perspective. let's draw some boxes now in 1 point perspective, and that will kind of help us out. So in learning this concept. So on a big sheet of paper, like on one of the big drawing sheets that we use in class, I'm working smaller just because of I don't have the room, but I want you guys to do this on large paper. I want you to just draw a horizontal line anywhere. Preferably, it would be easier if you did it towards the middle of the paper, but it can be a little higher, a little lower, it doesn't matter. But you just want to have a decent amount of space on the top and bottom. All right, so just like that, a really simple horizontal line. That's going to be our horizon line, our imaginary horizon line. And we're just going to kind of make up a simple scene here. We're not going to be trying to draw anything realistic yet. That's coming later, okay? Now, anywhere on this horizon line, doesn't matter where, I want you to draw a dot. That dot's going to be your one vanishing point. And we only need one because this is 1 point perspective. Now, I basically just want you to draw a series of shapes, flat, square, or rectangular shapes. You definitely want to have a straight edge for this. Straight edges are not essential for perspective drawing, but if you're a beginner, they're pretty important. They're very helpful. I've seen people do freehand perspective drawings, but that takes a certain amount of experience to make the line straight. So notice that I am just making some different squarish shapes. They might not be perfect squares, but that's okay. They can be rectangular. And I'm putting some above, some below, and some in the middle of the horizon line. And, you should do a bunch. Like, don't just do 2 or 3. I mean, I want you to fill up your paper with, if you're using a big piece of paper, you can do, it's not quite straight. I mean, I'd like for you to do like around 20 or so on your big paper, at least. And they don't have to be like 4-cornered square objects. If you want to get really fancy and, do a shape kind of like this, like if you're doing a letter or something. You can like do block lettering if you want to, for some of them. All right, so that's more stuff that looks like letters. Maybe they're not, but they're close. So this sort of resembles like a T, okay? Just whatever. The key is you want to have nice straight edges and sharp angles, okay? Just like that. Okay? I'm not going to do as many as 20 because I don't have a big enough sheet of paper, but when you guys do this in class, that's what I want you to do. Okay? So that should be enough for now. Okay? So once you have your paper covered with a bunch of different shapes, like that, I want you to take your straight edge and draw a diagonal line from each corner of each shape to the vanishing point. Like that one's you're not gonna really see it because it's almost directly above the vanishing point. All right, but just like that. And I think it'd be helpful for you guys to draw maybe the back edges too, on at least a few of them. Okay? So just like I'm doing here, every corner should go to that vanishing point. Now, if you want to, like, line it up, but not necessarily draw it so that it connects, that's okay too. Like I have it lined up here, but I'm going to stop drawing it there. So that way, you'll see in the next step here, it might save you a little bit on erasing. Okay. So I'll line that up and end it about there. End it about there. Okay, you get the idea. Okay. Now the last step here is going to be cutting off the back edges. Okay, I mean, you could have these all going to the vanishing point, but I think it's more interesting if you cut it off. So like anywhere you want, make it as long as you want, but just make a decision like, okay, I'm going to end this there. I'm going to end this here. The key is you want to make sure that on whatever side you're doing it, you're making that back edge parallel to the front edge. Okay? And in an odd shape like this, you're going to want to cut along, like remember like drawing through the forms in structure drawing? Same kind of a thing. And this is where having the back edges helps you a little bit, because then it tells you where to cut things off. So if I don't know where to come down here, I can go here and then go down from that corner. And there we go. And pretty soon, it doesn't take long, you will have a series of just simple kind of geometric forms, just cubic forms. All right, and you know, you can fill in more in between. You can cut them out. Like let's say I want to make that look fancier. I'll just cut a corner of it out. We'll do a subtractive kind of a method there. Okay. I'll just erase that middle line inside. Change those 3 lines there. Then I'll draw that L shape parallel to the others. Okay, and then what you can do is you can go in and erase the other lines when you're done. You know, wait till you're finished. But then pretty soon you will have a bunch of cool looking boxes, okay? And you know, you can, if you want to continue with the lettering motif, you can, you know, spell out your name or whatever. Just remember, the key to doing this correctly is making sure that those diagonal lines all go to that one vanishing point, okay? You have to kind of make sure that your straight edge is lined up. All right, if you are making these kind of just go to random parts in the background, random spots, it's not going to look right. In a one-point perspective drawing, every diagonal line has to go to that single point. All right, and you can make some kind of cool-looking designs if you really take your time and don't just do simple blocks for everything. You know, that's fine for a couple of them. See, that already is a more interesting form than what I had, right? And then when you're done, the last step, of course, is to tighten these lines up, darken them, erase your excess lines. And, you know, if you want to, if you have some colored pencils or markers and you want to, like, color these blocks, these forms, you know, you can do that. You know, you can get creative and you know, I don't know, have somebody sitting on top, waving. They kind of resemble buildings, like looking down in a way too. All right, so that's basically 1-point perspective drawing with boxes. Okay. Now let's take a look at 2-point real quick. Remember, 1 point means 1 vanishing point. But what if we take that same horizon line and add 2 vanishing points? And let's add them kind of far apart from each other. So there's our horizon line, VP2, VP1, right? Okay. Now, instead of drawing boxes and box-like shapes like we did before, now what we want to do is draw vertical lines that are perpendicular with the horizon line. And again, we just want to draw them above, below, and, you know, in the middle of the horizon line, just like that. Okay? If 1-point perspective is looking at something in the distance, then 2-point perspective is looking at a corner. Okay? So 1-point perspective, like let's say you were in a room. Okay? One-point perspective would be you're in a room, looking straight ahead at the wall, the opposite wall in front of you, and you're seeing everything going forward ahead of you, right? 2-point perspective would be turning your head a little bit and just looking at the corner of that room. So there's your horizon line. Vanishing points on either side. Now we've got a diagonal going from each vanishing point to the top and the bottom. Okay, like that. And then it's like you're looking at a corner of that same room, like you're turning your head. Okay, see the difference? Corner, opposite wall. Okay? So in relation to boxes then, let's go back to that. We've got these lines here. These lines are going to actually be the corners of our boxes. So from each vanishing point, I'm just going to draw a diagonal line. If the line, the vertical line that we drew, is even with the horizon line, you're only going to see 2 sides of the box. Right? Like so. If the lines that you drew are below the horizon line, you will see two sides and then the top of the form of the box, like this. And if it's above the horizon line, you will see 2 sides and the bottom, just like that. Now you're going to have a lot of overlapping lines and things like that. It's okay. Just remember, from each vanishing point, see I'm going from the left, touching the top and bottom, and then I'm going from the right, touching the top and bottom of each of these lines. All right, it's a little more involved than 1 point, but not by too much. Okay. And again, I want you to, you're going to be using the larger paper. So I want you to really fill the paper out. You can do odd shapes with this one too, but it's a little trickier. At first, you're just going to want to draw the lines, but then you can make other forms from them if you want. Also take note that in a 2-point perspective drawing, the closer together the vanishing points are, the more distorted the drawing will be. So you want to keep the vanishing points as far apart as possible, which is why in this kind of drawing, anything I draw here in the middle, further away from the points, is going to look more normal. But anything that I'm drawing like this directly underneath one of these 2 vanishing points, the angle gets more extreme. Okay? All right. So once we do this, then the next step is we need to draw our back edges of our boxes. Right now we've got, and I think you can sort of start to see the forms start to take shape, right? You can see like one corner of that, of each of those boxes starting to materialize. Just like that. Now we just need to cut off the back ends. So again, it doesn't matter where, it's up to you. Just pick where you want the boxes to end on the back side. Just make sure they're vertical, they're parallel with the front corner there, just like that. Okay. Now we can start to see things are happening, but we need to do the back edges now. And here's where it gets tricky. This is the part that always confuses people. When you do the back edges, you want to do the opposite. So, for example, anything from the left vanishing point needs to go to the right corner, and anything from the right vanishing point needs to go to the left corner. So make sure you've got enough lines. So let's try this box here. Here's my left vanishing point. I'm going to go from the left to the right side like that. And then I'm going to go from the right vanishing point to the left corner. And there's my box. You see where those 2 edges crisscross each other? That's where that back edge is going to be. Then I can darken my lines. And there is my 2-point box. Let's try this one. Okay, again, let's do opposites. We'll start with the left again. Go from left vanishing point to the right back corner, like that. And then from the right vanishing point to the left. And right there, where those 2 lines intersect, that forms your back corner. Okay, let's do it again. Left vanishing point to right backside, right vanishing point to the left side. And right there in that corner, right there, boom, is where that back edge is formed, okay? Right to left, and then left to right. And you just kind of keep doing it got all of your back edges drawn. Okay, I forgot to kind of cut those off. I'll cut that off there, off there. Right to left, left to right, right there. Okay, so depending on where you put your lines, you might have something different, and you're going to be working on that larger paper. But here is what those boxes now look like in 2-point perspective. Okay. And again, you can, once you have everything drawn, go ahead and, you know, sharpen your lines, add a little bit of shading. Again, if you want to add color, feel free. Give it, you know, a little bit of shading, a little sense of light and dark. Okay. So there's our 2-point perspective boxes. Now all that's left is to do 3-point. So if 1-point perspective is looking straight ahead at something and having your vanishing point kind of in front of you so that all the diagonal lines are going to one spot, and then 2-point is kind of looking at the corner of a room and you've got 2 vanishing points crisscrossing each other, then 3 points, so 1 point is like this. Doing that really quick without a ruler. 2-point is 2 vanishing points, and then things are crisscrossing like that. Okay. Now 3-point is a combination of these two, where you have a horizon line, right? And then you've got 2 vanishing points, but then you have a third that's not on the horizon line. It's either above or below, okay? And then if you start drawing your lines like so, you will start to have, you know, if you set up a little mini grid for yourself, this kind of a scenario where it looks like you're either looking up at something really tall or looking down at something from a high elevation. So it'll have that kind of distortion to it. All right, so that's 3-point. So you know, so now you don't have any vertical lines. You've got 3 sets of diagonal lines. So 1-point is you've got 1 set of diagonals and 2 sets of straight lines. 2-point is 2 sets of diagonals and 1 set of vertical lines, and then 3-point is all 3 of your lines are diagonals. So for the purposes of drawing boxes for 3-point, here's what you do. Three-point. Here's your horizon line. Remember, you want 2 of your vanishing points as far away as possible. Honestly, you know what? Let me reiterate that. I'm sorry, change that. I think you're going to want your horizon line a little lower or a little higher, not in the middle. I think that's going to be easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put my horizon line lower. Got my 2 vanishing points here, if you can see that. And now my 3rd vanishing point I'm going to put up here. And now I'm just going to start drawing. I think it's easiest when you do 3-point to just set up what's called like a perspective grid for yourself. And I'm just going to kind of draw some diagonal lines from each vanishing point. It doesn't really matter how far apart they are. And again, they're all radiating from each point, kind of like the spokes of a bicycle wheel or the hands of a clock, right? And then you've got your third vanishing point up here. Now what you can do is look at where some of these boxes, see how some of these are forming just by intersecting, and then just use the corners, like pick one, like let's just do this one here. I'm going to make a box out of these two here. Okay? I'm going to draw diagonals from those corners to that third vanishing point. Then I'm going to cut off the top. This side's going to go to that vanishing point there. Let's do another one. Choose that box there. Go ahead and darken those lines. And then we'll do the top and the bottom. Okay, so there's a 3-point box. So again, I would, start off by, just making a little random grid for yourself, and then just pick something. You can either pick one small one or combine them and make one larger one, and then just start connecting the edges. Okay. Now, you could have done it the other way. If the horizon line had been high instead of low, then it would have, I can just flip the drawing over and you can see how it would have looked like, you're above a city or something looking down at buildings or something like that, right? That actually might be easier to do. So, again, you can see, let's add a few more diagonal lines coming from some of these vanishing points here. And then down there. Okay. And so there you go. That is 3-point perspective. Now, in all honesty, there are more than 3. You can have like more than 3 vanishing points in a drawing. Okay. I'm not going to go that far because I think that this is about as advanced as we should get for now. Again, we're going to do rooms and spaces, and we're going to draw more sophisticated stuff than this. But again, to start off with, this is the best way to understand the difference between 1, 2, and 3-point. All right, so once again, there's our 1-point drawings boxes, our 2-point boxes, and then our 3-point boxes. So I want these all done on the larger sheets of paper. I want you to take your time on them. Okay, don't rush through them. I kind of went through them quick to show you, but be a little more creative with yours. And then once you finish 1 point, move on to 2. Once you finish 2, do 3. So I want you to have nice finished drawings of 1, 2, and 3 point perspective. And then from there, once we do that, we'll do rooms. And then when we do rooms, we'll do an observed drawing where we're not making it up. We're actually looking at a space and trying to draw it. Okay? All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.